Welcome everyone, and welcome to something a little bit different here at GTR24H. I'm no longer interviewing drivers unless you account for Nick Newcombe, who is a driver in his own right. But we're going to be talking a little bit about GTR24H and what is coming up. I've got Jon Turrell, Peter Munkholm, and the aforementioned Nick Newcombe with us. Gentlemen, hello to all of you.
Hello. Evening.
Right, so let's get this started. And Jon, I'm going to throw to you straight off. New car coming on in for the EEWC. The McLaren Senna is leaving us, and the new DPI car is coming in. Do you want to just talk us through and to our viewers what that means for the remainder of the season?
Primarily because of the unpopularness of the hypercar, we have been witness as we actually already thought we would actually get that car is somehow not very interesting for the teams to drive. We ran a final season with the hypercar now, and it's pretty much concluded that now on we won't return to the hypercar, and that's why we kind of wanted to introduce the DPI as a startup for the remainder of the season. But we are still actually discussing that yet. It depends on the teams who actually want to join the DPI as well. So it's still a question if we are able to actually get it to the next race. So far we plan for it, but you never know what actually going to happen. It depends on how many teams actually join up. So, but me and Nick is very much on top of that, and of course if there's no subscription for it and people don't want to actually change to the car or race the remainder of the season, that will of course only be the LMP2 or P2 class as the biggest class, you can say.
Nick, I'll go to you. I mean, you've done sim racing for a lot of time. You've been in the race control box as well. How have you found, the hypercar? Is it as tricky as Peter has mentioned, or have you found it a bit simpler in the times where you have tried it out?
When it first came out, obviously you test it, and it doesn't take long to realise that yes, you can drive it, but then to drive it fast and then to drive it fast consistently is the trick, and that's the difficulty. Obviously that's all in the setup and not just the skill of the driver, and obviously we're seeing a huge difference in the times between a team that's at the top of that game and a team that's trying to attain that level. Over a longer lap, the time was just exponentially just huge. Some of the smaller tracks brought that time down, but you still couldn't escape the fact that Team A was up here, Team B was down there, Team C, and it gradually the gap got bigger and bigger, and obviously them teams suddenly started questioning their ability and their reasoning to race against these teams. So you can go one of two ways. You can close shop and try and find out what the difference is between yourselves and ask the question, what do you feel here? How's the car behave for you there? And if you've got a guy who can bring all that together and try and help with a setup using the Motec, then you'll start finding the answers and start closing the gap like they do in all these series. Doesn't matter if it's real life or sim life, the same dynamics apply. I've just come off a training session for the race on Saturday, and we've changed our setup twice in 2 hours, and the first question we'll ask is, how does it feel compared to set A?
Yeah.
You have to drive a certain number of laps so you get the same feedback within that, and this is what the teams have to understand. To get the best out of it, you've got to put the work in. The race is the end result. It's not the beginning, it's the end result. What you do beforehand determines how you do on race day. Obviously you've got the element of luck, being caught out on a code 80 or whatever, But if you prepare the best you can, and the race comes along, all the work's been done. And if you just pound the laps, it's no good running. You know, when you're practicing, like you need a certain amount of laps to get the data that's going to work. But after that, once you've settled on the setup and everybody's happy, everybody's got their input, then you go off and do your long runs. For example, today, Roy has been away working a lot. He came in today, ran his first few laps with just the setup, and he went away 1.5 seconds quicker than his first set of laps. And that's through practice and setup change. And that's how you do it. And this is what some of the teams have to do in the higher classes. It's difficult. It's a difficult job. It's like we're driving the LMP2. I was just about to say just the LMP2. We're driving the LMP2, and it's the Ligier. So obviously it's a new car to the pack, and obviously we found out a lot as we've gone on from our first race at Nürburgring to where we are now, ready for Silverstone. And the setup, if you compare them side by side, we've moved on as we've discovered more about the car. And all with like today's session, all we changed was the dampers in like red Motec, and the change in the car is just night and day. We're going through cops flat, and it's just like I've never driven a car through cops like that. It just feels extraordinary, and we're absolutely slamming them curbs at Maggots and Beckett's now, and just flying out down Hanger Straight, just because the way we can take Maggots and Beckett's all through damper and Motec. And if you've got somebody who can read Motec, and that's your end result, and the times that we're getting are just extraordinary. And I would imagine some of the teams checking on would think they're qualifying times. Well, they're not. They're mixed 2, full fuel.
Giving away the pace advantage that you guys have at diesels.
But to be fair, when the car came out, the first thing people were saying, it's slower than the Oreca. It is not the Oreca. You have to look at it. You have to look at it in a different way to get the speed out the car. And we're working on it. We'll work on it up to the race day. We'll work on it after the race. We're just discovering new things all the time about the car. The only thing the guys don't like is that it's a right-hand drive, which for me is correct. You know what I mean?
I feel with you on that one, Nick, but we've kind of transitioned away from, the fact that we're removing out the centers. And John, a final point that I do want to get from you is we do have one of the other announcements with regards to teams leaving. I'll get into that later. But I just want to talk about, the fact is the hypercar class in the EEWC was the class that had the least number of entries, right?
Yeah.
Now that it's being replaced by the DPI, what is GTR's approach, or GTR24H's approach, with regards to new teams entering? Will it just only be the teams that previously registered for the hypercar class that can participate, or are you accepting new entries, and if so, how many?
Actually, I'm glad you actually answered question that. The first and foremost is that because of the drills team is now split up, they were actually allowed to bring some of a portion of their points into the DPI class as well. That's not the case anymore, and since Omnicrom Racing left early on, that's actually a total reset for the DPI class as it is. So if we're going to bring in new teams in, it will definitely be a reset for the entire DPI class. So it's a completely open championship. There's good prizes to be won by the teams, so I will still recommend a lot of teams to actually join up. So even if in terms of like the points for the overall standings and stuff like that, when you actually get to the end race of the Le Mans, of course that would seem a little bit different when you actually collect the points, but it doesn't really matter right now. It's just complete reset, and there's only like 3 races left. So if you have some good preparation, as Nick actually already were discussing about having the right setup and the right amount of hours put into it, I would give any team out there a chance, actually. So this is just a question about how much of your time you want to invest in it. So yeah, So why not join up? So that's something we'll begin to open up quite as soon as possible, if possible, and if team actually wants to join up, of course. It all depends on that. So, but Nick and we are looking into that.
As a rough estimate, how many entries are you willing to be taking for the new class?
I would say anything from 8 to 10. At minimum 5. If we do not have 5 teams, there's no reason to continue with the GTR class. That's it.
Yeah,
also because it's brand new. Yeah. There should be some kind of competition in it. As it is.
Yeah, if it doesn't go ahead, if the teams don't sign up, then the LMP2 will become the top class and will reset for next season. Obviously, the teams will have had more work to do with the DPI then, so hopefully we'll come back with a DPI, LMP2, GT and GT3 championship again. But if not, then we'll go with LMP2, GT and GT3 for the remainder of the season. And the prizes will be split accordingly between them 3 classes. So,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, but,
well...
Yeah,
I was going to say, now that we've mentioned that, if there are any viewers watching in and they think that they can do well in the DPI class, make sure to enter new championship, effectively the start of a new championship, starting from the Nürburgring, then Spa, and the Le Mans event, 3 rounds. So I'm presuming it'd be prizes to the top 3 if those 8 to 10 entry numbers do come through, and chance for the teams.
24 hours, 12 hours, 60 hours of racing. So that's a lot of racing for the teams to still competing. So yeah, anything can happen from here to now. So yeah.
I want to move on though, and now that we've spoken about the DPI class, we've spoken about Pin Sim Drillers and Omicron, I want to look to Nürburgring, and of course there are 2 Nürburgring events that are coming up. There's the 24-hour race, and then there's a 12-hour EEWC race later on in the year. So we're going to start, kind of chronologically, and we'll start with the 24-hour race, because Jon, I think you've got some news to tell our viewers regarding some prizes.
Yeah, as we earlier had a few discussions internally at GTR right now, I'm happy to announce now that there will be a prize pool of at least 1,500 euros. We're still trying to collect more. If we have some of the sponsors signing up, that prize pool would of course increase. That would also add in different hardware prizes as well on top of that. So yeah, of course we have been a little slow on that behalf, but it's also because of COVID and stuff like that, and most of the companies which we actually work with is a little bit cautious about actually jumping on any project, even if with other kind of esports as well. So the world right now is a strange place right now. So I think everybody feels that right now. Some are more lucky than others, and some have great potential with other stuff than other plans and stuff like that, of course. But it's also been a different year for GTR, but on in terms of the success rate and stuff what we have been ongoing right now, I do feel that it's in one of our best years right now so far. We have a lot of good stuff coming up, which we also could reveal. Yeah, new studios. Well, yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
The launch is not quite ready yet, but there will be something related to motorsport and the combination with GTR as well. I cannot reveal it yet, but it's very close by. It's something in April, start of May. And it's going to be, of course, launched worldwide, and it's going to be global as well. So for the teams participating in this, it's going to be a huge marker for them in terms of the brand awareness for the teams and marketing and PR and stuff like that. So it's good. It's not all about the money, but it's actually about the potential viewership which this actually can create. And the loop between real motorsport and sim racing in general. And this is what we want to support so much at GTR. And that's the reason for all the stuff and all the strategies we're doing right now, is to have that conversation going, and what can improve, and what we want to actually involve the teams with, and they giving feedback and stuff like that. So that's why it's so important. Yeah.
And Nick, I'll just throw it to you here. And I know we've been talking about things from a more kind of organization standpoint, but I want to get more of a team manager driver perspective for this, because the 24 Hours of Nürburgring is the first 24-hour event of the year from a GTR24H standpoint. We haven't had any of the 24-hour races for the EEWC. Does this change how you, as a driver, kind of view it? Do you see this? I mean, obviously it's a standalone event and you want to do well, but do you also take this as an opportunity to get your eye in for those 24-hour races in the EEWC season?
Well, for us as a team, it's about gelling them bodies together. Obviously, we've got in the EEWC, we've got the LMP2 team and the GTE team. Well, for this, we've combined a couple of drivers from the GTE team with some from the LMP2 team. So there's going to be a lot of work in cross cars, and it's just a team event for us to get some guys who would not normally work with each other to do that. It's also blooding a couple of young drivers, and for like another 24-hour race. Like Turn's going to be driving, although he's young. We've done a 24-hour together in January, so he's going to do another one here with us in Yousuf. And he's a driver that we're really going to look after and make sure he comes through, being so young. We've got old hands like Adam and Eric driving. It's going to be good. So we're confident. Whether we're finished top 3 or not, it's about the event more than anything. So anything can happen. It's Nürburgring.
Yeah.
There's too many turns to even think that you're going to be confident to get there. You know what I mean? So, but the main thing is it's a team group drive. It's about enjoying themselves and around Nürburgring. It's good that we can do this, bring 2 cars together basically, and form one team out of that, and let them fly, let them enjoy themselves, you know.
Well, if it's anything like last year's Nürburgring 24 Hours, it's sure to be an absolute banger of a race. The final topic that I have on my list, and at the end of this, if either of you three have something to bring up, go for it. The LAN event. And Jon, I'm going to throw it to you first, because GTR24H, I mean, I don't think I'd be stretching too much to say, is all about the LAN event. It's something that the organization was built around that Le Mans 24-hour race in October. Do we have the green light for the LAN?
That's actually a really good question. Let's just say that things could go very well in Denmark with the vaccine program and stuff like that, and everything would actually be a good portion of the Danish population will be vaccinated. That's just the problem with that, is that people coming from outside the country might not be, and not in the same situation. So I really cannot conclude on anything. Also, the vaccination program in Denmark is also delayed. So that means, there's a lot of things that can happen towards the event, but there's definitely something that we really want to try to succeed with the event. But it takes a lot of preparation as well, of course, and it's also something we want to put our time in. But the problem is that safety first, basically. So that means that we want to have everybody having a great event with no risk of getting sick, and that's our main priority for that event. So if that's not possible, we won't do it.
And to follow up on that as well, and I think Peter mentioned it very well in the sense that it's with sim racing, a lot of times people just assume, hey, you've got a race. If you want to cancel it, you can do it the day before. If you want to re-announce it, you can do it the day before. But with something as big as a LAN, and as a LAN that GTR24H has, with teams coming from not even just all across Europe, but sometimes people coming in from outside of Europe, you can't just simply say, one day before, oh yeah, we've got the race on, get on over here in time, because it's not just for the drivers as well, but for Peter to get all of the studio equipment down to the LAN event to book the hall. So where I'm going with this is, what kind of date can drivers expect and teams expect almost a final announcement to be made? So if you guys know that it is going ahead or isn't going ahead, what is that kind of cutoff period?
I will comment on that. I will go as far as 1st of August, and if we're going to go through after 1st of August and there's still no sign, kind of like indication of things are going in the right direction, it's a big no-go for the LAN event, and we will continue on with the online event this year as well. Of course, people also have to respect something that in terms of DTR ourselves, the management and stuff like that, there's nothing more in the world we would like to do that event. It's the soul and our backbone of the whole company as well. We miss you guys. We want to see everybody there enjoying themselves. There's something special with this event which needs to be kept alive. So for us, it's of course the biggest of our importance to get that solved and stuff like controlled. But the problem right now is that for me, as like the company or the responsible person of the company, I don't want to see people get sick, and that's my main priority right now. So the thing is that if I'm not certain in my own guts or feeling about it, I won't go through with it, and I will just pretty much put it down and say that's like it is, and we won't go any further. And of course, there's also the limitation of other countries not having the same, how can you say, excellent how can you say, vaccine program. That means that they might not be able to attend because they are not vaccinated. So that's something that's also a problem. And then we need to, if you set up an event, let's say there's 40 teams joining, only 20 teams will participate at the event. The remainder of the 20 teams should still be a part of the race. Then you have some infrastructure you need to control as well, and set up stuff is way different than it used to be. So that's also something you need to put in mind by doing that. So there's a lot of questions which needs to be answered before actually going to length of actually doing the event, especially in this world situation we are in right now. And what we are seeing around the world with more than 3 million deaths, I think we need to take this very serious. And I don't want to take any chances, to be honest. Not the current state. Primarily, I want to add in on that. Primarily, that's the same thing you see in other like esports of League of Legends of Australia, so in Counter-Strike and stuff like that. The whole fan base is enormous going forward with that. And by comparing to sim racing, that's not the same. So literally you need to start somewhere to create the interest and the personalities of the different teams, and getting the interviews out there, and get to know what kind of pizza Nick Newcombe likes, something like that. Everything needs to be like, people want to know. People want to know what your favorite color is. People want to know what kind of strategy you're using behind the scenes to get the successful results you get. People don't want to just sit there and watch toy cars running around the track. Yeah. Yeah, but that's literally what it's about. It's about like getting the teams to know, getting the viewers to know the teams, and getting it more personal, and yeah, getting details about stuff. Of course, there's not everything as a driver you want to reveal because you have your own private life. I understand that, but it's something that you need to create your own fandom by participating as a team member. And if you do not participate in interviews, you will never gain this success. It's pretty simple, because the same thing happened in Counter-Strike, League of Legends, StarCraft, whatever. There's fans who actually follow their favorite players and stuff like that. The same should actually happen for sim racing. And literally as it is right now, we don't see it. It's not to be found. So the thing is that it just needs to start somewhere. And DTR just kind of like wanted to invest our time in this, and this is going forward the way we want to do it. So there's no question about where the strategy is right now. Yeah, and we also adding in on that, we totally aware if we're going through with the event and if it should happen. We do know the participation of the different teams might be less than it was last year. Some might not be able to come because it could also be cost oriented, because like the economy is not what it used to be. It costs money to travel. It costs money to bring your gear. That's a lot of things though. That's why we might do a combination of two of both worlds. That means the one who wants to drive from home online can do that. The one who wants to go to the event can actually do that as well. But I do think that a lot of like the teams who used to be part of the GTR24H events still miss a lot by seeing their friends and all their colleagues of the industry and stuff like that. Of course, we also do that at quite a lot of GTR, especially in the management. I do miss it a lot, actually. It's a little bit sad that we are in this situation. I think nobody actually kind of like wanted us to be here, but it is just a new thing of the world, and we do not where we end with it. But points actually in the right direction right now. That it might look better end of the summer, but nothing is guaranteed. So,
and with that, I do want to move over to Nick, because he's been sitting very patiently and he hasn't had much to say recently.
He could raise his hand, you know.
He could, but that's I believe why I'm here as well. You know, I need to dish out the questions to all of you somewhat equally. Nick, what I do want to ask is, with the LAN event, and something that Jon kind of touched upon, is the fact that, you know, of course, as a driver, you want to be able to see the rest of your teammates, and you would all love to be in that same kind of environment as them, all under the same tent or marquee, as it were. But there are also, let's say, some negatives to it. You know, there's the physical cost of being able to travel to that event. And something that I was actually touching on with one of your drivers, Nick, was, I think with Wojtek Polesny, was the fact that, you know, when you're at the LAN event, you know, you can't do something as simple as just take off your headset, say, 2 seconds, guys, I'm going to nip to the fridge and go grab myself a nice cold glass of whatever it is, or grab a packet of crisps. So there are some of those negatives with it. I mean, the other thing you could bring up is, while you can take your rigs in, everyone has different steering wheels, pedals sometimes, and they have to get accustomed to the new gear. Is it a case for you, Nick, that you find that all of your drivers are always looking forward to the event, or some of the drivers always have some hesitations about it?
Well, from discussions within the team, the drivers want to be there because they've seen the videos and they've seen footage and pictures from the website from past years, and they want it. And from my experience, it's like nothing you can ever do. You're racing against people all year, and then you may have spoken to them in TeamSpeak or messaged and stuff, and then when you come face to face, 9 times out of 10 they're nothing like what you would have thought and look like size-wise, and you're thinking, how are you so fast? You know what I mean? and you're like, but as if you've just like took your headsets off from talking in TeamSpeak and you're just there face to face. You just pick up. From my experience, obviously I've been in Juices since about 2010, I think. And in 2018, 2 of the Juices guys, Eric and Adam, were driving for Satellite. So there was about 6 or 7 guys coming in. They brought their wives in, everything. They spent about 2-3 weeks in Europe. Went to Paris, did the sights, then headed over to Middelfart for the race.
It's the cost.
You know what I mean?
The wife saying, if you're going to go for this race, you've got to take me to Paris.
Exactly. So I've spoken to Eric and Adam for 8 years at the time. You know what I mean? But and basically the walk through, they came and found us, and it was just like, I've known Adam since he was at college in California. Now he's a full-blown lawyer. You know what I mean? He's with his own business, his own place to live. He's just been engaged. I've known him since he was a college kid. Now he's a full-grown man going to get married soon. You know, Eric's 2 kids now. You know, he was mid-20s, and now he's, you know, I'll let you know, work it out. But it was brilliant. You know, it's like as if we'd known each other all our lives when we're there. We've known each other for that many years, and then we're meeting Denmark. Come on, how many other walks of life can that happen? You know, it's
almost
brilliant.
Feels to me, it's like almost an extension of something that I've kind of noticed myself as a driver and a commentator. When you do races, you know, you kind of you build an image about certain drivers. You're like, oh, this is, you know, the so-and-so who keeps taking me out. And even as a commentator, I think, you know, these are questionable moves. He's probably not a nice guy, blah, blah, blah. But then even when, you know, you jump in a call with them, you talk to them. But the thing that's been, you know, the biggest one for me is when I've been able to do interviews with GTR24H, and we have webcams on, and even with other organizations that I've done stuff with, and even in just private calls, just with friends, and being able to put a face to that person, all of a sudden you're like, you're the same as me. You know, we both love racing, and, you know, sometimes we do weird stuff, and we'll always disagree, you know, on incidents in racing, but I will always imagine, you know, the LAN event is like that, but even more.
You know, the guys that I've met is just, you know, like the first year I was there with Jimmy Broadbent and Chris McCarthy on commentary, and we met, you know, talking to everybody, and then a year later it's like you've known them all for ages, and you're just talking to them, and it's just, you're just picking up from where you left off the year before. That's why last year's event not being able to go ahead was so sad, because it was a continuation. Like, you know, like the guys like Roy, you know, our good friend Roy, I was flying into Denmark, and I had a 4-hour stopover in Amsterdam, and I just rang him up. I says, what you doing? I says, I'm here for 4 hours. So he came, picked us up, went and had a steak.
That's big.
Had a beer, drove us back to the airport, dropped us off. I flew into Denmark. Well, you know, what else can you ask for, you know what I mean? And that's just through sim racing. You know what I mean? That you make friends like that, and that's what it's all about. Yeah. And, you know, you just can't complain. I just say to anybody who is into sim racing, if you ever get the chance to come to Denmark and do that LAN event, you have to, because you meet people that you've driven against all your life, and you'll make friends for life. You really will. It's just, you know, it's like I know, you know, I know some of the guys, and I've been to that B32. I've been to their den, driven on their rigs. That I didn't know them before the time I went, and I just thought, oh, they were one of the first rigs set up in 2018. I said, oh, go on, have a go. And from there, they're all friends.
Yeah.
You know, we've cracked a beer together, and if you ever get the chance to go and visit them in that the driving cell, just do it, because it's just, this is how it happens in Denmark with some of the teams. Viaduct's another one. That, you know, a set of young guys driving together. Families are present with them as they're driving, and they're all in it together. You know, it's just fantastic. I do feel like that's almost, you know, not racing as a whole, not just sim racing, but, you know, you're always rivals on track, but off track, everyone's friends, with maybe the exception of a few select people, you know, you might just not get on with, but the majority of people you just get on with, like glue. They're all in it together. They all want the same thing. They all just want to drive, and it started like, to get to that level where you get to Denmark. Obviously, you're at a certain level of driving capabilities, but every single one of these guys that are there in Denmark started off thinking, "Oh, I like this idea of sim racing. Let's give it a go." And I bet they came to the first corner and drifted off. You know what I mean? Into the boonies. You know what I mean? But you learn, it comes up. But
I want to move on now from the LAN event, and I just realized a topic that I should probably bring up while I have you all here, and this is mainly for you, Jon and Peter. The Sprint Series, Assetto Corsa Competizione, is it going to be happening this year?
That's a good question. It all comes down to budget, basically, sponsorship and stuff like that. One of the stuff that GTR and Peter and I, especially and internally in the management, has been discussing, we do not want to use money on something that could not gain, how can you say, a foothold for the company going forward. Of course, the Sprint Series was a humongous success, but we also had a partner paying for everything. And we really want to move on doing that and make it more specialized for the sponsors, so they get like this title sponsorship of it and the promotion of it, and of course we will do the production and set up stuff. So if there's any sponsor out there who wants to do this, we're very open to talk to you. Of course, we hope that we're gonna land some good sponsorship deals for doing that. We of course would love to do it, but it also comes down to budgets, and as it is right now primarily. It's COVID situation right now. There's a lot of companies like holding back their money and their investment. So the thing is that we are trying to protect ourselves as much as possible, not using too much money. We also, as Peter said, have an upcoming event. We have an upcoming studio we need to use money on. We bought a shitload of equipment for the new studio as well, like PCs and stuff. So yeah. We use quite a lot of money, but I think the result you're gonna see when we go live from the new studio is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be something out of this world, I would say. Not by selling it too much, but there's some great plans for it. We will still try as much as possible to do live productions, like having you guys flown in, especially the commentary crew. It just makes such great atmosphere for the different events. There's a lot of question towards the sprint series as well for me. The year has not been in terms of like getting title sponsorship and committing partners in as I would like to see it. But also because of the change of angle of things that Peter also said before, our whole idea right now is actually using time on investors and getting stuff up and running. We have some really good talks going on right now, not to reveal too much. We are close by. There's stuff going on behind the scenes that we cannot reveal because of competition, of course. There's always competitors out there. So primarily the thing right now for us, most important, is actually to create entertaining TV. That means that's something that's viewable, like interviews, like stuff where you get closer to the teams, as I said before. Stuff like that as well, talk shows, stuff like that. Because I think we needed to create the fandom situated around the teams. It's about the teams, it's about getting the stories out and stuff like that. And that's the most important thing. You can always arrange a bunch of different like series, like freebie series or whatever you would like to do and do content around that. But I think in terms of GTR, we really want to make a product that's both watchable, has the right proper quality, and also the right race control and the right people behind it, and build something up that's strong. So I would rather like take small steps in that direction right now as it is. But of course, if somebody comes in, like TV companies, bigger sponsor, putting the money down to do the production, of course we will look into that. And then I won't like say that the sprint series is out of this year, but everything can happen from now to tomorrow. It depends on all the stuff we've been working on sometime, or right now just giving you some kind of indication back, and they actually want to bring down the money on the table, and then we will move, of course. So it's just a question about that. I have one final thing for me. Stay safe, basically. It's a strange time we're in right now, so stay safe as much as possible. We really want to see you at the Atlanta event, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Same for me. Just look after yourself. Obviously, make sure your family and friends are safe, and get on the old simulator and drive. And if you haven't signed up for the Nürburgring 24, get yourself signed up for that, and get over to the website and have a look and see what's there for you. Obviously, EEWC series as well. Next event is in June. So there's plenty of time between the Nürburgring 24 and then prepare for the June 12-hour at Nürburgring. So yeah, and enjoy yourselves. And the summer's coming. It's going to be a better summer than last year. I can tell you that now.
Well, for myself, just to echo what you've all said, and don't forget to our viewers, new DPI class in the EEWC. You can register up for that as well. And I'll speak for myself, and I think some of our viewers, thank you, Jon, Peter, Nick, for being so open with what's happening in GTR and getting a chance for all of us to really see what is going on inside. But Thank you everyone very much for watching. Wherever you happen to be viewing this, make sure to give a follow over to GTR24H and subscribe to stay up to date with all of the content. For myself, Peter, John, and Nick, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay fast.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.